G'day and welcome back to another Pokemon Ruby episode. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at basically the journey to the 4th badge. Now this is going to be a bit of a long one. Basically there's a lot that we need to do and there's a lot of story elements that we have to get across. We're also going to have to go and prep a second Pokemon properly, because we need someone that can do HMs, and as of now we currently don't have anyone barring our starter, and we really don't want our starter to have to do all the HMs. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick up the bike. I pick up the Acro bike mainly because it allows me to wheelie, yeah, the Mark bike is actually preferred because of the speed, but I like the Acro bike because I like the hopping, and there are some areas you can only access. You will have to switch between both throughout the game if you want to explore all the areas, which was always something that was really cool when I was a kid. So the bike is super important. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to finish off a couple of little things around Morville Town before we really kind of progress. We're going to go along the right hand side here. Although we can't go across because we don't have surf yet, we'll be battling the trainers here. Mainly just to get some levels. There are a couple Shroomishes and Rosalias, but because we're so strong, we don't have a big problem. We're also electing not to learn Takedown, mainly because at this point in time there's just not really anything too major to get with it. Then we go to the casino. We're going to need to get a coin case to have access to the casino. Unfortunately, there's no ability to gain Pokemon from this casino. One of my favorite things from Crystal was being able to grab, or Silver and all those ones, was being able to grab the Porygon, which was obviously super cool. And plus you could get a whole bunch of other Pokemon, which would have been helpful here if we could pick up a water type Pokemon, but unfortunately we cannot. So yeah, to get the coin case though, we have to basically go and get Harbor Mail. We also get Rock Smash, which we're definitely going to need. And we can get Rock Smash from the scientist that's in the little kind of hut there. We go to this lady in her house, and she also offers us a... well, she doesn't offer it, but she mentions that she wants a Harbor Mail. And if we get Harbor Mail, then we'll be able to exchange it, and she'll give us a coin case. Now, there are a couple bikers on this trip, so they're not too difficult. A lot of them just have kind of like a Magnemite, but it's not a big problem for us. We have both Mudshot and Water Gun, which is effective against Magnemite because it's a steel typing. So generally speaking, we're able to clear this up pretty easily. There's honestly not a lot that we need to do to get through here. Once we get back to Slayport, we pick up the Harbor Mail, grab it, and then basically travel back through the bicycle road. And along the way, we pick up any of the trainers that we may have missed on the way down. Again, none of these battles are anything too crazy, and we're basically just pumping XP into our starter, because at this point, after losing Tentacool in the last episode, we're kind of basically stuck with just kind of mass spamming the starter for now. So yeah, of course, again, the biker trainers are really nothing too crazy. We go to back to the lady and we pick up the coin case. This was more just for whatever, because obviously, like I mentioned, we don't actually have the ability to get anything from the casino. But it was still cool to pick up the coin case because it does help out. And of course, yeah, we could eventually pick up some TMs or something from there. So there is possibly some helpfulness later on. We'll just have to see, what happens basically. So yeah, we go to the casino, we get the coin case, take a look at what we can get, but there's obviously nothing. Which means we're now going to push off a little bit to the left of Morville and travel along the route and do a couple important things here. So the first thing we're going to be doing when we travel along this way is the daycare. So the daycare is super important. We're going to be placing 2 of our Pokemon inside of here. The reason being is we need both of these Pokemon to get a lot of levels. So we need both Martin and Marvin, our mighty Magikarp duo, to both get close to level 20. We're going to be leaving one of them inside. I think probably Marvin. We're going to be leaving one of them inside, and we'll only pick that one up around the Elite 4 time. But the other one we're going to be picking up basically very soon. Now, I'll tell you guys what we're going to do, but basically we're going to run around a lot. So we do need to keep one in our party for now. That's because there's a couple double battles that I want to take advantage of for the extra EXP for them. So basically we're going to be doing that. But yeah, the big thing is basically when they're in the daycare, they gain XP for every step that you take. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to essentially be, how can I say, forcing our Pokemon to level. So we are going to be, to cut a long story short, running around a lot. But the first thing we're going to do is get to Verdant Town. A couple reasons for this. So mainly the big reason is just to get there, go to the Pokemon Center there, because later on when we get Fly, we're going to want to be able to fly there. We can't do anything, we can't Rock Smash or do anything to break the barrier between Verdant and Davenport. At least right now we can't. So at this point in time, it's not something that we can do. But what we can do basically at this point is we can get our contest pass, and then we can also heal our Pokemon as well. We'll be back here later on once we've leveled up the one Magikarp, because we will need a level 20 Magikarp or Gyarados before we are able to basically, how can I say, before we're going to be able to essentially get to the next section of the story, because we actually legitimately need Rock Smash to progress, and I don't want to teach it to Swampert because Swampert has to learn 4 very crucial moves for the Elite Four. So if we don't teach Swampert Rock Smash, or if we do, we're using a very valuable slot for a move on his basically roster, and it's just not good. Like, it's just not something that we want to do. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Not too much else in the town, honestly. There's a lady here that will tell you how much your Pokemon digs you. She's pretty helpful if you're doing something like Zubat, you know, trying to obviously look at Crobat or something like that. But yeah, there's nothing else really too major here. At this point, we don't also have a lot more to do on this side of things. So what we do is we basically just pick up a contest pass. And yeah, from that point of view, we essentially just get ready to go and progress onwards. Contests are really cool. I'll probably do a couple, maybe before we finish off the Nuzlocke, just because I actually really enjoy contests. They're like one of the most fun things that I really got to do in Ruby and Emerald and Sapphire, because I owned all 3, because why not? But yeah, the big thing is, like, it was super fun to do contests, and it was just something very different that, like, they obviously added into a Pokemon game, but it was just really fun to kind of have them added in, and I think it was just a really cool thing to do. Gave Pokemon conditions and stuff, and just made it a really fun kind of mini side game, which I think was, I don't want to say it was the first real mini side game that they did, but it was at least the first one I noticed that was like a full-fledged kind of fun world built-in mechanic when it came to Pokemon. So really cool stuff. Don't really know what we're going to do with the Marsh Stomp just yet, good old Kippy, but we'll have to see whether he leans into the cute or the tough. Eventually he will be a Swampert, so I think we might have to lean into the cute, because everyone knows that that bad boy is cute. But yeah, picked up a couple of TMs and some items here, but the next step forward realistically is only to go up. Now, a couple of things we need to do here basically to prep ourselves to go upwards. So the first thing is we will go and fight the Windstraight family. The Windstraight family is basically like a series of 4 battles in a row. They're actually really nice for 2 reasons. So firstly, they're like a very big EXP boost, which is super cool. They're like a very nice EXP boost for your Pokemon. And then also, they give you the Marco Brace. And the Macho or Marco, or whatever way you want to put it, like the Mark Bike, but the Macho Brace, essentially can prevent your Pokemon from passing out, which is something pretty helpful when you're doing a Nuzlocke, in case you're wondering. So yeah, pretty straightforward stuff. Obviously, we start off with the first one. Nothing too crazy in any of these fights, though, to be honest with you. Really nothing that could give us remotely any real issues. This first fight here, I think we really had no issues whatsoever. The second fight was again also no real big deal. There was no actual Winstrade family member that caused us issues, at least on the surface level of things. We then fought his wife, who sent out a Roselia, but because she's so low level, Mudshot's able to basically pretty much take her out, or because we're so high level, I should say. So yeah, realistically, we didn't really have any major problems. The Winstrade family is also pretty cool from like a money point of view. It's a decent bit of tom for any player that's kind of looking to catch up on some cash. But yeah, realistically, our main goal here was to get the Macho Brace. Yeah, all of these fights were pretty simple. You can see we don't take a lot of damage on Kippy. We do battle my arch nemesis Shroomish though, who, honestly speaking, is probably the most irritating Pokemon when you have a Marshtomp Swampert starter like in the game. Just the paralysis, the absorb. He learns Mega Absorb as well, close to level 20. There's just a lot I don't like about Shroomish. That obviously causes a huge problem for a 4 times effective weak Pokemon to grass type moves, which is always a bit of a shame. But yeah, generally speaking, we didn't have any major problems. Outside of Shroomish, everything was pretty straightforward. And even the final Winstrade family member we just beat in one go. So yeah, it was pretty chilled. Honestly speaking, it really was. And we didn't have any like problems taking out the Winstrade family, which is fine because at this point we don't actually still have a second backup Pokemon, and that's kind of our next big step. So we tried, or I tried really hard to see if I could snag anything other than the Magikarp, but unfortunately I really couldn't. I didn't get that lucky, and we don't need more than 2. One of them is going to be our actual Gyarados that we're going to use for the end game, and one of them is just going to be the crazy Pokemon that we keep in the party that knows Waterfall, Surf, Rock Smash, and just basically every HM that we can teach them. As you can see, our Pokemon has gained a couple levels, but this is going to have to change quite rapidly. The reason I put both of them in is because since I'm going to be running a lot of steps to try and boost the one, might as well give that EXP to the other as a bit of a head start on their leveling process when we pick them up later. And then we run. We run a lot. We ran for, I think I ran for about 3 hours, which is not great in terms of enjoyment, but hey, if you've got a football game on, then you can at least watch that. But yeah, we do have to collect all the eggs, unfortunately, which will hatch into Magikarp, but we won't be able to use any of them because obviously we can only have 1 per route, and we already got our Pokemon for this route. Not entirely certain how Nuzlockes work in terms of eggs, but I basically just don't use them. So yeah, once our Pokemon get to about level 19, we're then able to pick them up, and basically we're now going to take them and quickly speed level the one to level 20. So once it gets to level 19, we're just going to switch, rotate in and out, and get ourselves to level 20 so we can get that evolution into Gyarados. And for me it's Gyarados, but yeah, for some people it's Gyarados, or yeah, just depends. I like to say Gary. But yeah, so now we're just going to keep switch battling basically some wild Pokemon. We actually almost died, well, not almost died, but we got pretty low doing this. I got a bit reckless, and yeah, we survived more than fine, thankfully, and we only needed to beat the Surskit, and then when we did, we got the EXP to push good old Martin to level 20, which is a very big level because, like I said, it gives us finally our second Pokemon that's honestly usable, which is a very big component to finally get. It's a very helpful situation to be in when you actually have a second, I know, a second usable Pokemon. It's pretty unbelievable. So now we have Gyarados, and basically, yeah, this is a huge moment for us. We're going to be teaching him Rock Smash. Obviously, very crucial to teach him Rock Smash because it's going to now enable us to make some big story progresses. So, Rock Smash, very crucial to progressing. We were very fortunate that we didn't need to use Cut or anything. We would have had to teach it to our starter. I believe Mudkip's the only one that could learn it. But we are very fortunate now we're in a situation where we're able to, like use all these moves. So we head back to obviously the side town. Here we basically free our man who was digging, excavating all the way back at the beginning of the game. So you can visit Wanda, his wife, and he gives us a new HM, which will come in handy later, which is super important. And at this point as well, we can break the rocks and head up, where we find the camera crew, who, by the way, are like one of the best training battles in the game. So the camera crew, they always appear at set routes in the game, and they're always a double battle, and their Pokemon will progressively get stronger, all the way up to like a max of, I think, level 38, all the way up to the Elite Four. But they can literally be fought every time they change route, and they'll change route every time that you fight them. So I think there's 4 areas they can appear, if I remember. This is the first one. Then they appear by the Tree City. There's a couple places they appear, but basically I used to just fly around. This was back in the day. I used to just fly around and fight them literally like all the time to get tons of XP, because doing a double battle against 2 level 38s gives a very surprisingly decent amount of EXP. And it was a very easy fight that you could clear with like 1 surf. So with just flying around for like an hour, doing double battles, not only did I make a lot of money, but basically I essentially managed to get myself some pretty good kind of EXP, and was able to really farm up EXP. Obviously I can't do that just yet, but I will consider doing that to level up my party, as it's just one of the better, safer ways to do so, because we don't really have any outward weaknesses to their team, especially since we get muddy water and things like that, which will do some good AoE decent damage as well. So yeah, outside from that, obviously now the next goal is we have to essentially get to Mount Fall. So we have to go and get the kind of asteroid that is dropped there. There's no real specific game cues to get it. You just kind of travel upwards and then hear about Team Magma kidnapping a professor, and then kind of take things from there. Along the way we got lucky and we had Kippy evolve, which is really awesome because Swampit's not only like a huge upgrade, but it means that with Swampit essentially we are now basically kind of nearing like having the meta starter Pokemon. We're like 1 muddy water and like 2 TMs away from basically being able to solo the whole game with them, which is pretty good, all things considered. So yeah, obviously we can't ride the cable car yet. We need to still get to the original kind of asteroid area and rescue the professor, and then we'll be able to ride the cable car. Along the way, of course, we get secret power, which is super duper helpful because it allows us to make a secret base, although we won't really need to make a secret base because we can't have friends that visit. Secret bases was also pretty cool because you could battle your friends, and I believe they gave you XP, if I remember correctly. So it was really cool if you had like a couple friends, basically add a couple battles that you could kind of like play or farm for EXP, but also just kind of cool to battle your friends. Obviously we hit the rest stop, and at this point we're basically just kind of motoring through. A lot of the fights on the side of the map are just basically not tailored to our typing, but we just don't have any type disadvantage. So we're very much kind of like in control of all of these fights. There's not a lot of Pokemon that give us like outward issues, basically. We have the interview on TV, which is cool, although obviously it's not like anything too major. They clearly enjoyed battling us. It was one of the things that I really liked the most about Ruby, was kind of this interactivity of the world that you would have. Next we head on the way through all the soot. This was probably it's one of the most aesthetically pleasing things to run through the soot, but also the thing that triggered my OCD the most. I very often would just get into tons of wild Pokemon fights because I would have to clear all of the soot before I could move on. There was a chance to get a Skarmory here, which is like a super low rate drop, and I would spend a lot of time here trying to farm that Skarmory, which was pretty crazy. And then I always dig the Ninja Kids because they would be like, how did you see me in my hiding space? Meanwhile, it's just a massive head that's basically like hidden underneath the sand. It's just very interesting, basically. A couple double fights here as well. Nothing too crazy, but again, just realistically some pretty nice EXP that we can feed into Martin. Although he's got Rock Smash, he is pretty much right now our only second viable option. So at this point we really do kind of need to continue improving him and giving him EXP, because it is kind of like, super important. But yeah, we make our way through to the next town. Obviously we find the guy who gives us a suit sack as well. A really nice kind of equip or key item. Allows us to collect soot, and he can make flutes which remove status effects or grant status effects. I think they remove status effects, but I can't really remember directly what they do, but he does do some stuff with the soot, which I always found to be pretty interesting. So yeah, obviously collecting soot is not really something we're going to do too heavily, but it was something that was pretty cool back in the day, but it's definitely not something we're super interested in, at least not right now. There's no real reason for us. So off of Route 113, we basically then hit into Falibor Town. Falibor Town's got a couple of super interesting things, not least the move tutor, who's of course actually super duper interesting. Obviously allowing us to teach our Pokemon moves. We'll definitely be coming back to him a little bit later, because there are some crucial things that we'll have to teach our Gyarados, or Gyarados. I'm just going to call him Gyarados. That's what I call him. I'm not going to change what I call him. It's probably wrong, but hey. So yeah, we're going to call him Gyarados. Anyway, we're going to teach some of our Pokemon some moves later on. Right now, it's not like a huge train smash. We meet Lynette, who designed the PC system. She's like a cousin of Bill or something. And then we find out that we need to head to Professor Cosmo's lab. Here as well, we find a little contest hall, which is cool. Nothing too crazy that we'll need to do here, but it is something that's pretty cool. I always love the contest halls, just some weird people inside. But yeah, so from there, basically, we're going to head on down through to the mountain. So nothing else really that we need to pick up here. At least not on the surface level. Basically we're just heading off to Meteor Falls, and then we're going to essentially just try and pick up some more XP along the way. Again, there's not like any real fights here that are necessarily difficult for us. So a lot of them are normal type Pokemon, water type Pokemon, fire type Pokemon, rock type Pokemon because of the Geodudes and the Mountaineers, and a couple fire guys. There's really nothing too crazy here, so we're not really looking at a lot of like intense combat, a lot of like one-hit move kills, and just in general like a very, very straightforward process basically. So we're gonna head all the way to Meteor Falls. This requires us to kind of drop a little bit down here. Nothing too wild though. We also don't actually need anything else. Along the way, we find Lynette's house. She gives us a C-Dot doll, which is a little bit disappointing. Would be cool to get an Eevee. I don't know what the technicalities are about an Eevee, but if I get an Eevee and turn it into Vaporeon, I assume I can use it, basically. But I think in a Nuzlocke, you're not allowed to use any gift Pokemon, if I remember correctly. So we're not able to do that. Along the way, we continue to pick up double battles. Again, Roselia is probably the scariest thing we're going to face. Or Shroomish. Definitely Shroomish. It's always Shroomish. But yeah, here, like again, because we're so powerful, because Kippy's really hitting critical mass, he's got that tertiary evolution, those big stat boosts, we're really kind of like able to deal with a lot of the issue Pokemon quite quickly. So like we're able to beat Roselia's in one go, we're able to beat a lot of Pokemon in kind of like a one go. And what this does is it kind of just gives us a good basis to work off of. We get Muddy Water and replace Mudsport with it. We're not facing any large piles of electrical Pokemon that we can't beat with Mudshot. So we're going to take Muddy Water instead for some AoE clear and just a higher base level water move. Once we get to Meteor Falls, we don't do too much. We lose our chance to potentially fish here because we have a Zubat attack us. Awesome, thanks Zubat. But yeah, we end up facing Team Magma, but not really fighting them or anything, because Archie from Team Aqua rocks up, basically tells us that the Team Magma are trying to destroy the planet, and he's also trying to destroy the planet, but in the complete opposite direction. So, or at least in Emerald, that's what he does. In Sapphire and Ruby, they kind of played off as like just trying to bring the balance. So, we're not going to let them, make more land because, it's not necessary. But I always found it a bit strange because clearly Team Aqua's goal would be to make more water. And I think the one thing Emerald does do is kind of make that way more interesting as a topic. So I think Emerald really does a good job of kind of making the whole Team Magma, Team Aqua dichotomy really kind of play out a lot better, which for me is way more interesting, like just in general. We're finally able to grab the cable car, and we do, and we head up and face Team Magma. There's nothing really like super funky here. Again, with mainly Poochyenners and stuff like that. What we do is take out the first 2 Team Magma grunts who exist just before we take on Maxi. But then we take on Maxi, which we'll watch kind of like the full fight there because it's a bit more interesting. I always found it super funny how Archie's Poochyena is very clearly just doing like triple the workload of the other Poochyenners, and how they like animated him running like super quick, like like as if he's really working super hard. So we listen to Maxi and his plan to kind of like blow up the volcano and create more landmass, which obviously is not so lacquer. It's not such a cool thing. But, also I kind of vibe with it, like Sigma, Alpha Male, big Alpha Male play to kind of capitalize on the real estate market, probably also into NFTs. But yeah, his team is not really a big issue. He has a Mightyena, a Goldbat, and he also has a Numel, all of which we take out pretty easy just using Muddy Water. So it's actually a pretty simple, straightforward. Muddy Water basically one-shots the whole team, so we don't end up having like any huge issues, which is cool. I think it's more than fine to make life a bit easier, so I was actually quite happy to just kind of one-shot all of them. As much as it's maybe not the most thrilling in terms of combat, at this point we're taking what we can get, because after losing Tentacool, it's not so fun to switch up, and Martin, that's going to get confusing. I shouldn't have done that. Martin is not yet ready to really take on these Pokemon, although we will probably start really just switching him in, because at this point Kippy is very much dominant, which is what we want, but we're going to need more options than just one for the Elite Four, just from like a workload perspective, realistically. We head down the Jagged Pass after clearing the volcano. Maxi kind of comes to his senses, I guess, or realizes, hey, I should probably do something else. And that brings us all the way down to Lava Ridge Town. Now, Lava Ridge Town is a very small town, but there's a couple of things here. There's actually the energy root salesman, or the herb salesman, who's got some cheaper alternatives to things like protein and calcium, but his suck because they make your Pokemon hate you. It's not actually a big thing for us because we're not relying on our Pokemon to like us, but it is something that's, not necessarily ideal in the long run. We also pick up an egg here. I actually cannot remember what this egg hatches into, which is a bit of a problem, but hey. And so we pick up the egg, and then the next goal is basically to take on Flannery at the gym. And Flannery is, again, a super simple fight for us. Swampert has given us the upper hand in most of the gyms so far, and Flannery is no exception. We continue to have the complete upper hand, and everything kind of runs super duper simple. So basically we have full-on type advantage against your team. We have literally no issues. With Muddy Water especially as well, we're basically able to one-shot our whole team. And what this does is it basically gives us like a super duper like easy ride. Slugma, one shot. There's also Turkle, who we one shot because I think he's doubled. I think he's ground and fire. So the two Slugmas and the Torkoal, pretty straightforward. Martin doesn't have any water moves, otherwise I would have let him gain some EXP here. Probably could have let him get some EXP here actually. Wouldn't have been a bad call either. But for now it's okay. Basically it's a pretty simple kind of process. So yeah, was a relatively easy gym fight. And that's that for this section. Probably the longest one. It might be the longest section, or it could be the second longest section. I think the section with the legendary will be quite long. And then I think the other section by the tree city could also be quite long. But it just depends on how it cuts up, I guess, and what happens. But yeah, pretty straightforward. Was quite eventful, this one. And yeah, we're definitely hitting critical mass with Kippy, so definitely going to work on Gyarados. The big goal next will be to get the Good Rod and get some extra diversity into the team and train them up. But yeah, we're definitely getting to kind of like a good place in terms of just like at least having a really strong starter. And Swampert does really help out the team a lot. But yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like. And I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care, stay safe, and yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, bye.